Hello, everybody out there. This is the tittle of the day for today. And today it's over. I was reading John 16, and Jesus is speaking about, sin and judgment and different things like that. And in verse 16:11, he says, of judgment because the prince of this world is judged, right? And that's, of course, is Satan. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, he's judged by the things that he has done, okay, like unbelief, because obviously he didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God, or he probably wouldn't have tried to crucify him, right? If he would have known for sure completely that he was God in the flesh, he wouldn't have tried to tempt him, and you know what I mean? So I was thinking about that. And then in John 5, Jesus is speaking, he says all judgment has the Father has given all judgment to the Son. So that's why I say all the time, that just God is love, because God the Father is not even about judgment anymore. He's handed all that over to the Son. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, maybe, possibly that's why we are in the predicament that we're in this nation and in many other nations around the world right now, is because the rulers of kingdoms, nations are judged by what they do. Okay, and we're going to look at 1 Chronicles 21 about even King David was done that way. Because we elect someone and put them up there, God gets them to a position where they can be elected, and then the people usually will nowadays will elect them, and then they, I guess, make a choice somewhere in there whether they follow after Satan and the world, or they follow after what God the Father and Jesus and the Holy Ghost want them to do, right? So I believe that that's why we're in the predicament that we are. We can see that. I mean, that's basically what Jesus says here in John 16:11, of judgment because the prince of this world is judged. And then, right, so you can see that there. We can also see in Isaiah 40:23 that it says that bringeth the princes to nothing. He maketh the judges of the world, of the earth, as vanity. And then in Psalms 82:1 it says, God sitteth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods. Okay, so like it's Paul said that Satan is the god of this world, right? Also in some of the other translations, it might say, instead of gods, it might say rulers or kings. Okay, so or judges. It might say judges. But you see, so God he holds them accountable for, and the people accountable for the things that they do. So it all kind of falls back onto the ruler, because the people have elected the ruler, they have chosen the ruler, like with King Saul before King David. The people wanted a king. Samuel said, you don't need a king, you have God to fight your battles for you and to rule over you. But the people wanted a king like everybody else, so God, being caring, gave them a king. And look what happened. Like, that's pretty much where government came from, 1 Samuel 8, right? So the kings are put there by God, and then they make a decision. Okay, so and it's the people are held responsible for the things that the ruler does, and also the ruler is held at a higher standard. So let's listen to this in 1 Chronicles 21.
1 Chronicles chapter 21. And Satan stood up against Israel, and provoked David to number Israel. And David said to Joab and to the rulers of the people.
See, Satan stood up and got him to do it, right? Okay.
Go, number Israel from Beersheba, even to Dan, and bring the number of them to me, that I may know it.
And Joab answered,
The Lord make his people 100 times so many more as they be. But, my lord the king, are they not all my lord's servants? Why then doth my lord require this thing? Why will he be a cause of trespass to Israel?
Right. So, there's no need to count the people, because God wins the battles anyway. So whether they have 300 to go into war for him, or they have 50 million, it doesn't matter, because God really is who wins the war. Okay. And so it doesn't matter how many men you go count.
Nevertheless, the king's word prevailed against Joab. Wherefore Joab departed, and went throughout all Israel, and came to Jerusalem. And Joab gave the sum of the number of the people unto David. And all they of Israel were 1,000,000, and 100,000 men that drew sword. And Judah was 460,10,000 men that drew sword. But Levi and Benjamin counted he not among them, for the king's word was abominable to Joab. And God was displeased with this thing, therefore he smote Israel. And David said unto God,
I have sinned greatly, because I have done this thing. But now I beseech thee, do away the iniquity of thy servant, for I have done very foolishly.
And the Lord spake unto Gad, David's seer, saying,
Go and tell David, saying, Thus saith the Lord, I offer thee 3 things. Choose thee one of them, that I may do it unto thee.
And it's very interesting that like I read to you Psalms 82:1, and David is writing the psalm. I believe that's a Psalm of David, and he knows who experienced these things. So that's what's very interesting when you read the book of Psalms, is that you can go back and read in Chronicles and Kings and things like that about the things that happened to David, and then the Psalms are kind of an afterthought after that of what happened to him in his life, right? And how God dealt with him and how he dealt with God. It's like it's an awesome example of a relationship between man and God, King David and God's relationship. And you see, though, David takes responsibility, and that's what he knows, that he's wronged God, and he's trying to take responsibility for it. That's what is happening in this country, is people get to a leadership role and they don't take any responsibility. They think that government is God to them, okay? And they don't think that they're doing anything wrong through their human wisdom and intelligence.
So Gad came to David and said unto him,
Thus saith the Lord, Choose thee either 3 years' famine, or 3 months to be destroyed before thy foes, while that the sword of thine enemies overtake thee. Or else 3 days the sword of the Lord, even the pestilence in the land, and the angel of the Lord destroying throughout all the coasts of Israel. Now therefore advise thyself what word I shall bring again to him that sent me.
And David said unto Gad,
I am in a great strait. Let me fall now into the hand of the Lord. For very great are his mercies, but let me not fall into the hand of man.
So you see, David's very smart. He has a personal relationship with God the Father. So he knows, I would rather have God judge me. Like now, all judgment has been given to Jesus. We'd rather have Jesus the judge over us than any man, because man usually is not going to deal with us in a holy and merciful way. He's going to deal with us in a manly way. So you know what I mean? It's better to fall into the hand of the Lord, okay?
So the Lord sent pestilence upon Israel, and there fell of Israel 70,000 men. And God sent an angel unto Jerusalem to destroy it. And as he was destroying, the Lord beheld, and he repented him of the evil, and said to the angel that destroyed,
It is enough. Stay now thine hand.
And the angel of the Lord stood by the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite.
So you see, the angel of the Lord, it was an evil thing that was happening. It was being destroyed. But who was paying the price? Not David. He didn't lose his life. But many of the people lost their lives. The land, the kingdom itself paid the price for the thing that David did, because he's the ruler over them. So the people paid the price. You see that?
David lifted up his eyes, and saw the angel of the Lord stand between the earth and the heaven, having a drawn sword in his hand stretched out over Jerusalem. Then David and the elders of Israel, who were clothed in sackcloth, fell upon their faces. And David said unto God,
Is it not I that commanded the people to be numbered? Even I it is that have sinned and done evil indeed. But as for these sheep, what have they done? Let thine hand, I pray thee, O Lord my God, be on me, and on my father's house, but not on thy people, that they should be plagued.
Okay, that's very interesting, because now David is thinking like Jesus. You see, he's saying, "This is my Father's house. This body is my Father's house." Okay, that's the way I'm interpreting him. Is let their sins, let the sins that have gone on, be put onto me. This is my Father's house, God the Father's house that He's created. Let it fall on me, and don't let it fall on them. That's exactly what Jesus did for us. See, every chapter in the Bible has something pointing towards Jesus if you look hard enough.
Then the angel of the Lord commanded Gad to say to David that David should go up and set up an altar unto the Lord in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And David went up at the saying of Gad, which he spake in the name of the Lord. And Ornan turned back and saw the angel, and his 4 sons with him hid themselves. Now Ornan was threshing wheat. And as David came to Ornan, Ornan looked and saw David, and went out of the threshing floor, and bowed himself to David with his face to the ground. Then David said to Ornan,
Grant me the place of this threshing floor, that I may build an altar therein unto the Lord. Thou shalt grant it me for the full price, that the plague may be stayed from the people.
Is it interesting they build altars a lot in the Old Testament like that? I think that, and it always has to do something supernaturally or an experience with God has been done, like Jacob's ladder, and I think that it's to be put there for generations and generations and generations to be reminded of that act that happened or that thing that went on, so that they can look back on it, so they're not doomed to repeat the past.
And Ornan said unto David,
Take it to thee, and let my lord the king do that which is good in his eyes. Lo, I give thee the oxen also for burnt offerings, and the threshing instruments for wood, and the wheat for the meat offering. I give it all.
And King David said to Ornan,
Nay, but I will verily buy it for the full price. For I will not take that which is thine for the Lord, nor offer burnt offerings without cost.
Right. David will pay the full cost for all of it. You see, he'll take everything, just like Jesus paid it. It is done. You know, he paid everything in full.
So David gave to Ornan for the place 600 shekels of gold by weight. And David built there an altar unto the Lord, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, and called upon the Lord. And he answered him from heaven by fire upon the altar of burnt offering. And the Lord commanded the angel, and he put up his sword again into the sheath thereof. At that time, when David saw that the Lord had answered him in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite, then he sacrificed there. For the tabernacle of the Lord, which Moses made in the wilderness, and the altar of the burnt offering, were at that season in the high place at Gibeon. But David could not go before it to inquire of God, for he was afraid because of the sword of the angel of the Lord.
Okay, so you see, David had to pay the price, the people had to pay the price for his judgment. For him being the ruler of the kingdom, the people had to pay the price, and he had to pay the price for the things that he had done. And we see that over and over with King David and King Saul and many of the other kings. But especially with King David, you know, he would do wrongful, sinful, wicked things, evil things, and then, you know, turn back to the Lord. I mean, he always would turn back to the Lord and fall on his face and ask for forgiveness. Solomon was a little bit different. You know, Solomon was poor me a lot of the times. You know, he was like, oh, why is this happening to me? You know, compared to David, who knew, I know what I did was wrong, you know. Okay. All right. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed that. I hope it made sense. Wake and watch for Yeshua. God is love, and I love God. Amen.